Have you ever watched someone spend years pouring gasoline on their own house, striking match after match, laughing the entire time because they were told the flames would only burn the people they didn't like? And then one day the wind shifts, the fire jumps the fence, and suddenly they're the ones standing in the ashes, wondering why nobody is rushing in to save them. That, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly where we are in 2025. A decade of slogans, hashtags, viral think pieces, and late night talk show monologues told men they were the problem. Toxic, dangerous, obsolete. And for the first time in modern history, millions of men looked around, shrugged, and quietly said, "All right, message received." They walked away. And now the same voices that spent years celebrating that walkaway are screaming that it's a crisis, not a crisis for the men who finally found peace, a crisis for the people who never thought those men would actually leave. If you stick with me to the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why this walkaway is permanent, why no amount of shaming, guilt tripping, or viral TikTok tears is going to reverse it, and why the next 10 years are going to be remembered as the great humiliation. You're not going to want to miss a single second of this. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor. If you love raw, no filter, angry guy content that the algorithm tries to bury every single week, smash that like button right now. Share this video with every man you know who's waking up to reality, and subscribe so you never miss an upload. We're building something real here. Also, if you're tired of watching your wealth evaporate because you never learned how the crypto game actually works, go click the link in the description and join Angry's Crypto Academy today. I teach regular guys how to buy, sell, trade, and most importantly, protect what's theirs in a world that's getting crazier by the day. Thousands of students already in there stacking and smiling. Link is right below this video. Go check it out. And if these videos are hitting you in the chest the way they're supposed to, you can always buy me a Red Bull to keep the rage-fueled truth coming. Link for that is in the description too. Every can keeps the channel alive and uncensored. Appreciate every single one of you that throws one my way. All right? Let's talk about what's really happening out there. Picture this. It's 2015. The internet is on fire with a brand new gospel. Masculinity is toxic. The future is female. Men need to sit down, shut up, and make space. If you're a man and you dare open a door for a woman, you're mansplaining chivalry. If you look at her for more than 1.8 seconds, you're a creep. If you ask her out for coffee after meeting her at the gym, you're harassing her in a safe space. Billboards, university orientation videos, corporate HR trainings, celebrity award speeches, all of them singing the same song on repeat. Men are the problem, and the solution is less of them in every room. So men did exactly what they were told. They made themselves smaller. They stopped approaching. They deleted the dating apps that treated them like disposable wallets. They stopped chasing promotions that would just paint a bigger target on their back. They moved to smaller towns or to countries where nobody had ever heard the phrase toxic masculinity. They learned to cook, to fix their own cars, to build furniture, to grow their own food. They turned hobbies into side businesses, and side businesses into enough passive income to never need an office again. They got dogs. They got jacked in home gyms. They got peace. And somewhere around 2022, women started noticing the silence. And at first it was little things. Why aren't guys approaching me anymore? I went out to the club last night and nobody bought me a drink. All the men on the apps just want something casual. Then the posts started getting angrier. Where did all the good men go? Men are intimidated by strong, independent women. Modern men are weak. And then finally, the mask slipped completely. And we got the videos we see every single day now. Grown women in full makeup, ring light glowing, looking directly into the camera, shouting, "This is why you're single and broke and lonely. And it's your fault, not ours." They never thought the day would actually come when men would listen, but we did. We listened so well that the dating market in the West is now collapsing in real time. Marriage rates have fallen off a cliff. Birth rates are below replacement in almost every Western country. Home ownership for single men under 35 is actually higher than it is for single women in the same age group now. Did you catch that? The guys who were supposedly left behind are buying houses, building wealth, traveling the world, and doing it all without the drama, without the court dates, without the midnight text asking, "Where are you? And why aren't you answering me?" And meanwhile, the average unmarried woman between 25 and 35 in a major Western city is staring at a rent payment that eats 60% of her income, a student loan balance that's higher than her annual salary, and a dating inbox full of guys who either make half what she makes or who live in another country and speak limited English, but at least say "good morning, beautiful" every single day without being told to. That's not a coincidence. That's cause and effect playing out on a societal scale. And the best part, the same women who spent the last decade telling men we don't need you are now making six-figure salaries as content creators, crying on camera because the men they told to go away actually went away. I want you to really let that sink in. They scorched the earth, danced in the flames, took the selfies, got the likes, collected the brand deals, and then one day turned around and realized the village they burned down was the same village that used to carry them on its shoulders. Now, before anyone jumps in the comments with the predictable script, let me say it for you. Not all women. Nobody successful in this space is talking about the grandmother who raised 3 kids on a factory salary, or the nurse working double shifts, or the quiet girl who just wants a family and doesn't have a TikTok account. We're talking about the cultural current that was amplified, celebrated, and monetized for an entire decade. That current told men in 1,000 different ways every single day that their presence was a burden. So men removed the burden. And now the complaint is the burden is gone. That's not hypocrisy. That's reaping what you sowed at warp speed. Let me paint another picture for you. Imagine you own a restaurant. For years, you put up signs that say "no men allowed" unless you make six figures and are over 6 feet tall. You mock the guys who walk by and don't meet the dress code. You let your friends trash the place and never tip. You go on Yelp and brag about how you keep the standards high. One day you notice the dining room is empty. You walk outside and see all the men you turned away eating across the street at a food truck run by a guy with a cooler and a smile. The food's better, it's cheaper, and nobody's yelling at them. You start screaming that the food truck guy stole your customers. But here's the thing, he didn't steal anything. You told them they weren't welcome. They just finally believed you. That restaurant is modern Western dating. The food truck is Southeast Asia, Latin America, Eastern Europe, or for a lot of guys, just staying single with a dog and a gaming PC. And business has never been better. You see it in the numbers nobody wants to talk about on television. 63% of men under 30 now self-describe as single. Only 34% of women in the same age group say the same. That's a gap of almost 30 points. Translation: there are millions of women who think they're in a relationship that the man does not consider exclusive, or in many cases, even a relationship at all. That's not men playing games. That's men refusing to sign a contract where all the risk is on one side. And the gap keeps growing. Every month, another statistic comes out that should terrify anyone who still believes the old rules apply. Sperm donor clinics reporting record shortages because men aren't donating anymore. Marriage license applications down another 12% year over year in some states. Passport applications for men hitting all-time highs, while women's applications flatten. Guys aren't just walking away from women. They're walking away from the entire system that spent years telling them they were defective for being born male. And the reaction from the usual corners, more shaming, more man up articles written by people who've never carried anything heavier than a Starbucks cup, more viral threads about how men need to do better and step up, conveniently ignoring that every time men tried to step up over the last 15 years, they were told to step back, sit down, and pay reparations for existing. So men stopped stepping. They started lifting. They started stacking. They started sailing. They started smiling. And now the panic is setting in. You can smell it in every comment section. You can hear it in every podcast where a 38-year-old marketing manager realizes her dating pool is shrinking faster than her fertility window. You can see it in the sudden flood of where are all the good men content that somehow always ends with the same conclusion. It's men's fault for not wanting what women are currently offering. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. What exactly are they offering? Because from where most men are standing right now. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. The offer on the table looks a lot like date me, pay for everything, never disagree with me, never look at another woman except that I make more money than you, but you still have to pay because equality. And if it doesn't work out, I keep the house, the dog, and half your income for the next 15 years. That's not a relationship. That's a hostage situation with better marketing. And men looked at that deal, looked at their fathers who lost everything in divorce court, looked at their buddies paying child support for kids they're not allowed to see, looked at the headlines screaming about false accusations and ruined reputations, and collectively said, hard pass. Then they went and built lives that don't require a woman's permission to be happy. That's not bitterness. That's boundaries. That's not fragility. That's freedom. And the craziest part, the happier men get without all the drama, the angrier the complaints become. It's almost like the goal was never equality, it was control. And the second the control slipped, the mask came off. Now we're going to pull the camera back and look at the part nobody on mainstream television has the courage to say out loud. The money is about to run out. Not for men, for women who spent the last 15 years being told that having it all meant a corporate job, a downtown apartment, endless travel selfies, and a vibrator that connects to Bluetooth. That fantasy was never free, yet it was subsidized by fathers who paid for college, by boyfriends who paid for dinners, by husbands who paid the mortgage, by male taxpayers who funded the government programs that kept the lights on when the credit card bills came due. And now the subsidies are being canceled one by one in real time. Let me walk you through how this unfolds over the next 5 to 7 years, because it's already started and almost nobody is ready. First, the housing market. You've seen the headlines. Single women are buying more homes than single men. They leave out the part where those purchases are almost entirely concentrated in the 2018 to 2022 window, fueled by record low interest rates and pandemic stimulus money. Rates are never going back to 2.7%. A woman who bought a $450,000 condo in 2021 with a $1,800 monthly payment is now looking at a refinance quote of $3,400 a month if she ever has to move or rates reset. Guess what? She can't afford it on one income. Condos in every major city are already starting to flood the market from women who are upside down and underwater. The same experts who cheered girl boss home ownership in 2021 are mysteriously quiet in 2025 while inventory piles up and prices stall. Second, the job market. All those remote six-figure marketing, diversity, and HR roles that exploded during the George Floyd era, they're being eliminated faster than you can update a LinkedIn profile. Companies figured out that half those positions were make work jobs created to avoid bad press. Now the money's tight, the layoffs are brutal, and the people getting the pink slips are overwhelmingly concentrated in fields that are 70 to 90% female. Every week, another viral TikTok shows a 29-year-old senior director of equitable outcomes crying in her car because she just got let go with 2 weeks severance. She's got $90,000 in student loans for a gender studies degree and no marketable skills outside of writing pronoun policies. Good luck paying that condo HOA with a 19 an hour contract gig on Upwork. Third, the safety net is shredding. For decades, women have been able to fall back on male relatives or a string of relationships when things got rough. That fallback option is evaporating. Fathers are retiring broke because they spent their savings keeping daughters afloat through bad decisions. Brothers are done. Uncles are done. The guys who would have stepped in 10 years ago are now the same guys living in Thailand making $4,000 a month remotely and dating 24-year-olds who think feminism is a type of yoga class. There is no cavalry coming. And fourth, the big one nobody wants to say out loud: age. The average woman who bought into the "I'll get serious about marriage after I've lived my life" plan is now 33 to 38. She spent her 20s climbing the corporate ladder, traveling to Tulum 6 times, and dating men who were very clear they weren't looking for anything serious. She told herself she had until 40. Science disagrees. Fertility doesn't care about your follower count or your executive title. And the same men she passed over at 26 because they didn't have a six pack and a six-figure salary are now 36, debt free, jacked, and getting messages from 22-year-old dental assistants in Colombia who cook dinner wearing nothing but an apron and a smile. Who do you think wins that competition? This is the great humiliation in slow motion. It's watching a generation of women who were told they could have everything discover that everything has an expiration date and the bill just came due. And the most brutal part, men aren't angry anymore. That's what terrifies them the most. We're not screaming in comment sections. We're not making roast videos. We're just gone, living quieter, richer, happier lives. We replace the drama with deadlifts. We replaced the arguments with airline miles. We replaced the nagging with noise canceling headphones and a golden retriever who actually listens when we talk. And every day another video drops of a woman in her late 30s yelling at her phone, "Where are all the men who want to build a family?" And the comment section, once a war zone, is now filled with the same 3 words on repeat: in the gym, so on a plane, walking the dog. That's it. No essays, no paragraphs. Just 3 word responses that hit harder than any rant ever could. Because the silence is the point. You spent years telling men their voice was violence, so we shut up. And now the absence of that voice is the loudest sound in the room. Let's talk about the bear for a minute because that meme didn't come out of nowhere. Remember last year when the question went viral, would you rather be stuck in the woods with a bear or a man? And millions of women picked the bear. They made skits about it. They stitched it. They turned it into merch. They laughed about how predictable men are, how dangerous, how any woman would obviously choose the bear. So men did what men do when you tell them the truth about how you see them. They said, "Cool, enjoy the bear." Now, when women post about being lonely, about rent being due, about needing help moving, about literally anything, the top comments are, "Let the bear pay your rent. Ask the bear to fix your tire. The bear will keep you warm at night." And there is no comeback because they wrote the joke. We just read the punchline back to them. That's not cruelty, that's consistency. You told us where we stood. We believed you. End of story. Now zoom out and look at the macro picture. Japan went through this 30 years ago. They called it the herbivore men phenomenon. Young guys opted out of dating, marriage, and corporate slavery. The government panicked. They threw money at the problem, subsidized weddings, tax breaks for kids, public shaming campaigns telling men to be real men. Nothing worked. Birth rates kept falling, the economy stagnated, and a whole generation of Japanese women aged out of the dating market while the men played video games and ate cup noodles in peace. And we're just doing it faster and with better Wi Fi. The difference is that American men watched what happened in Japan, watched what happened in Korea, watched what happened in Scandinavia, and said, yeah, we're not waiting 30 years to figure this out. We're out now. And the passport bro phenomenon isn't some fringe 4chan fantasy. It's the single fastest growing travel trend among men under 40. Medellin, Bogota, Bangkok, Bali, Belgrade, Bucharest. These cities are being flooded with quiet, polite, jacked American guys who make 80,000 to $150,000 remotely and spend $1,200 a month living like kings, surrounded by women who smile when they walk into a room. These aren't the finance bros with Rolexes either. These are former warehouse workers, nurses, IT guys, teachers, regular dudes who learned a skill online, stacked some crypto, and realized the entire Western dating script was a rigged casino. So they cashed out and left the table. And the women back home are left arguing with each other about whether it's sex tourism or exploitation, while the guys are sending postcards that say, "Wish you were her." That's not a joke. That's a punchline written in real time. Now we're going to talk about the part that keeps even the most confident, ring light glowing, "I don't need a man" influencers awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling. The part they joke about on podcasts with forced laughter and 3 glasses of wine. The part they make entire series of TikToks pretending they're above caring about. Fertility. Not the abstract academic society needs babies version of fertility. I'm talking about the cold, brutal, personal version that shows up on a blood test result when you're 36 and the doctor uses words like diminished ovarian reserve and time is not on your side. For 25 years, the message was crystal clear: put motherhood on hold, climb, travel, sleep around, build the career, freeze your eggs if you're rich enough. The right man will wait. The right man will understand that you needed to find yourself first. Biology apparently would also wait. It was supposed to pause like a Netflix show until you were done brunching in Bali and finally ready to press play on the family chapter. Biology didn't get the memo. Every year after 30, egg quality drops off a cliff. By 35, it's in free fall. By 40, the statistics aren't just bad, they're catastrophic for women who waited. And the worst part, the same culture that sold the delay, delay, delay message now sells the $20,000 IVF copium package with GoFundMe links and Warrior Mom branding. Except IVF success rates for women over 40 using their own eggs are in the single digits. Single digits. That's not empowerment. That's a lottery ticket sold at gunpoint. And the men who were supposed to line up for the privilege of raising some other guy's kid from a sperm donor because love is love, those men are in a Medellin teaching English on the side and dating 25-year-olds who don't even know what a sperm donor is. The fertility cliff is coming and it's going to make the housing crash look like a Black Friday sale. We're already seeing the first wave. Look at the explosion of single mom by choice content over the last 3 years. Notice the pattern. Almost all of them are 37 to 44, upper middle class, white collar, and they all tell the exact same story. I thought I had more time. The men I dated weren't on my level. I didn't want to settle. Then they drop $80,000 to $150,000 on donor sperm and IVF, film the entire journey for content, and 6 months later are back on camera, exhausted, broke, and begging for Patreon donations because maternity leave doesn't exist when you're self-employed and the baby has colic. The second wave is just starting to hit now. The women who can't afford the IVF package, who waited until 41, thinking it would still work out, and are suddenly staring at a future with no children, no partner, and cats that don't actually fill the hole. That's not judgment, that's arithmetic. And the most sinister part of the whole thing, the same media outlets that spent a decade celebrating child free travel influencers are now quietly pivoting to "it's okay to be childless" content because they can see the tidal wave of regret forming on the horizon. And they need to get ahead of it. They're trying to rebrand a biological dead end as a lifestyle choice before the tears become too loud to ignore. But the tears are coming. You can already see them in the comment sections of every 38-year-old influencer who posts a picture in a bikini with the caption, "aging like fine wine." Scroll down far enough and you'll find the quiet one-line comments from women in their early 30s that just say, "I hope you're right." They know. Now let's talk about the retirement crisis that nobody is ready for, because this one is going to hit like a freight train in about 15 years. Right now, the average single woman over 50 in the United States has a net worth of under $40,000. Under $40,000. That's not a typo. That's median, not mean. The average single man over 50, closer to $180,000. Why the gap? Because men were never allowed to coast. Men were never told they could spend their 20s and 30s finding themselves on credit cards and hope. Men who didn't build something early got left behind fast. So they learned skills, took risks, started businesses, invested, moved to where the money was. Women were sold the opposite message. Security would always be provided, first by daddy, then by boyfriend, then by husband, then by government. That chain is snapping link by link. Pensions are gone. Social Security is projected to be insolvent by the mid 2030s. The women who spent their highest earning years on $300 brunches and $6,000 European girls' trips are about to discover that Airbnb money doesn't compound when you're 67 and the housing market is flooded with downsizing boomers. And who do you think is going to take care of them? The government that can't pay its own bills? The cats? The friends they made boss babe TikToks with who are in the exact same boat? There is no safety net left. The only people who will have real wealth in 2040 are the ones building it right now. Men who walked away early, kept their money, stayed out of the family court casino, and invested the difference. Those guys are going to be 55 to 65, debt free, with seven-figure portfolios and the freedom to live wherever they want. And the women who spent 15 years calling them losers for not wanting to wife up a 35-year-old with a body count higher than a Netflix watch list. They're going to be working the front desk at Planet Fitness, hoping the health insurance still covers their blood pressure meds. That's not hyperbole. That's math. And the cruelest twist of all, the same women who spent their youth mocking men for wanting a traditional woman are now in their late 30s and early 40s, quietly rewriting their dating profiles to say things like, I love cooking for my man and looking for an old fashioned gentleman. The comments are savage. The men just laugh, swipe left, and go back to messaging the 26-year-old yoga instructor in Portugal who actually means it. You can't negotiate with time, and you can't shame men into ignoring what they've already learned the hard way. Now we're going to zoom in on the most explosive fault line that almost nobody is talking about yet because it's still forming under the surface like a volcano everyone pretends isn't there. The war that is about to break out between two generations of women, the 30 to 45-year-olds who bought the have it all on your own timeline dream at full price, and the 18 to 27-year-olds who grew up watching that dream turn into a nightmare in real time and quietly decided, yeah, hard pass. Gen Z women are not repeating the same script. They're rewriting the entire playbook. They watched their older sisters, cousins, and TikTok big sisters spend their 20s chasing corporate titles, racking up casual partners, and posting living my best life content while secretly crying in Ubers at 2 a.m. because nobody texted back. They watched the same women hit 32 and suddenly start panic posting about wanting a ring, a baby, and a man who leads. They watch the dating apps turn into digital graveyards where the only men left swiping are either married, broke, or looking for a third for him and his boyfriend. And these younger women looked at all of that and said, like, if that's empowerment, keep it. That's why you're seeing the explosion of trad wife and feminine energy content from 21-year-olds who have never paid a bill in their life. They're not LARPing. They're surviving. They figured out faster than anyone expected that the sexual revolution had a hidden expiration date, and the women who use their youth as currency are about to be left holding bags of worthless paper, while the girls who opted out at 22 are cashing in on a market that suddenly values youth, femininity, and low drama above everything else. And the older cohort is furious about it. You can already see the claws coming out. Every day, another 38-year-old influencer makes a video calling 22-year-old trad wives pick-me's and regressive and setting women back 70 years while conveniently forgetting that she herself spent the last decade calling any woman who wanted marriage before 30 a breeder and brainwashed. Now, the same energy is being aimed downward instead of sideways because the younger women are winning the only competition that actually matters, the attention of the men who still have resources and options. And those men are choosing 23 over 33 without apology. It's not even close. A 23-year-old who cooks, doesn't have an OnlyFans, hasn't been on antidepressants since 16, and looks at a man like he's the prize will beat a 35-year-old VP with a Peloton and a podcast every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's not theory. That's every comment section, every DM slide, every passport bro group chat on the planet right now. The rage this is creating is going to boil over into open generational warfare online. You're already seeing the opening shots. Older influencers calling younger women manipulative for wearing dresses and making breakfast. Younger women responding with quiet little videos of their boyfriends carrying groceries while they smile in sundresses. And the caption just says, "This is what peace looks like." No words needed. The visual does the damage. And the men, they're just watching from the sidelines, eating popcorn, because for the first time in 30 years, the market corrected itself without them having to say a single word. Now, let's talk about the other collapsing empire nobody wants to look at directly: OnlyFans and the entire financial dom economy. At its peak in 2021 to 2022, there were women pulling seven figures a year selling nudes and feet pics to lonely men in Ohio. Entire apartments in Miami were paid for by simps who never even got a thank you text. Then two things happened almost overnight. First, the whales left. The top 1% of spenders, the guys dropping $10,000 to $50,000 a month, were almost all Western men with disposable income and no girlfriend. Guess where they are now? Split between Southeast Asia and the gym. They're getting the real thing for the price of a nice dinner, or they're too busy building the body they never had to care about pixels anymore. Second, AI happened. Why pay $500 for a custom video from a girl who doesn't know you exist when you can type 3 lines into a generator and get whatever fantasy you want in 4K for pennies? The entire parasocial girlfriend industry is being automated out of existence faster than Blockbuster. The result? OnlyFans revenue across the board is down 40 to 60% for mid-tier creators in the last 18 months. The girls who were banking on that income to pay for the lifestyle they bragged about are suddenly staring at 1,200 rent and a Venmo balance that stopped moving. A ton of them are in their late 20s now, trying to pivot to life coach or brand strategist. But the men who used to pay their bills have either moved on or woken up. And the ones who made millions, they're about to discover the harshest truth of all. Past earnings from adult content are relationship kryptonite. There isn't enough money in the world to make a stable, high value man raise another man's former favorite OnlyFans creator as his wife. The same guys who paid $20 for a PPV when they were lonely will ghost the second the conversation turns to meeting parents. That's not judgment. That's just reality doing what it always does. Now we step into the part that's going to hurt the most for a lot of people watching this because it's the part nobody has the stomach to say out loud yet. The psychological collapse that's already in motion. For the last 15 years, a massive percentage of women between 20 and 45 had their self-worth tied to one metric above all others: attention from men. Not love, not respect, not partnership, attention. Likes, matches, DMs, free drinks, orbiters, Instagram comments, the little rush of dopamine every time a new follower appeared. It was a drug and the supply was infinite because men were raised to believe that giving that attention was the only way to ever be considered valuable. Then the supply got cut off, cold turkey. Men stopped commenting hard eyes under every selfie. Men stopped sliding into DMs. Men stopped paying for OnlyFans. Men stopped caring if you called them mid on a podcast. And for the first time in their adult lives, millions of women woke up to a phone that didn't buzz with new male validation before their morning coffee had even finished brewing. That silence is deafening. Therapists in every major city are reporting the exact same thing right now. Waiting lists months long, almost entirely filled with women in their 30s who describe the same hollow feeling. I don't know who I am when nobody's looking at me. I achieved everything I was told to achieve, and I've never felt more empty. I'm successful on paper, but I cry every night because nobody cares. That's not anecdotal. That's a cultural withdrawal symptom. And the prescriptions aren't helping because you can't medicate away the realization that the identity you spent a decade building was a parasocial sandcastle. The tide came in, the likes dried up, and now you're standing there with a bucket wondering why the castle disappeared. The mental health industrial complex is about to get very, very rich off this wave, and very, very few people are going to get better because the solution isn't another SSRI or another girl's trip to Sedona with a sound bath and a cacao ceremony. The solution is accepting that the game you were told was permanent just ended, and nobody told you the rules change while you were busy taking selfies. Meanwhile, the men who used to be the unpaid emotional support staff, the free therapists, the walking ATM machines with compliments are happier than they've ever been. Their group chats are full of gym PRS, crypto gains, and plane tickets. Their biggest problem is deciding whether to spend January in Chiang Mai or Buenos Aires. Their phones are quiet too, but it's the quiet of peace, not the quiet of panic. That contrast is brutal. One side is learning that solitude can be freedom. The other side is learning that solitude can be a prison when you never built an internal life that didn't depend on external eyes. And it's only going to get louder from here. Now, let's talk about where the smart women are running because a quiet migration has already started that almost nobody in mainstream media wants to acknowledge. Churches are packed again, but not with the blue haired grandmas you're picturing. They're packed with 22 to 32-year-old women in sundresses who suddenly discovered that conservative religious communities are the last places in the Western world where high value men still show up on time, dressed well, with jobs, no criminal record, and an actual desire to get married and have kids before 35. These aren't the fire and brimstone mega churches either. These are quiet Orthodox parishes, traditional Catholic Latin masses, Reformed evangelical fellowships, even Mormon wards in college towns. Places where the men were mocked for years as weird or repressed are now seeing waiting lists of single women trying to get in the door. Why? Because those communities never drank the Kool-Aid. They kept the old rules: men lead, women follow, marriage early, kids soon, no cohabitation, no casual sex, no debt, no drama. And while the rest of society was busy calling that oppression, those communities quietly built parallel systems where men still want to be husbands and fathers, and women still want to be wives and mothers. The same women who would have laughed at a trad husband in 2018 are now showing up to Bible study, hoping nobody recognizes them from their old party photos. And the men in those communities, they're vetting harder than ever because they watched what happened to the secular world and they're not interested in importing the chaos. You can already see the quiet rejections happening. The 34-year-old marketing manager with a past gets politely shown the door, while the 24-year-old homeschool graduate who can quote Ephesians and make sourdough gets courted by 6 guys at once. The market corrected itself in the one place nobody was looking, and that's not going back in a box. Once women figure out where the remaining marriage minded men actually are, the floodgates open and the price of entry skyrockets. We're already seeing it. Purity culture is making a comeback, but this time it's being driven by women in their 20s who looked at the wreckage and chose a different path before they ever had to learn the hard way. Meanwhile, the secular world is about to try the nuclear option, legislation and shame 2.0. You're already seeing the opening shots. Articles with headlines like "The Male Loneliness Epidemic is a Public Health Crisis." Politicians floating ideas about bachelor taxes in South Korea and now being workshopped in parts of Europe. Think pieces about how men owe society relationships and children. Calls for a new social contract where men are incentivized or coerced back into provider roles. Every single one of those ideas is going to backfire so spectacularly that it will accelerate the walkaway instead of slowing it. Why? Because men have already done the math. They watched their fathers, uncles, and older brothers get financially annihilated in family court. They watched their buddies pay alimony to women who cheated. They watched the culture spend a decade telling them their natural instincts were predatory. And then they watched the same culture turn around and say, actually, we need you to come back and pay for everything now. That's not a negotiation. That's a hostage video. And men have already left the building. You can't shame a man who's happy in Thailand with $3,000 a month and a girlfriend who thinks cooking for him is a privilege. You can't tax a man who renounced his passport and lives on crypto in a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty. You can't guilt a man who looked at the deal on the table, said no thanks, and found out life without the drama is actually incredible. Every attempt to drag men back by force is just going to push more of them out the door faster. Now we put the final pieces on the board and look at the actual timeline, what the next 10 years look like when you stop listening to coping podcasts and start watching plane tickets, birth certificates, housing data, and passport stamps. This is the part where feelings don't matter anymore. Only numbers, geography, and human nature do. 2025 to 2028, the early collapse phase already happening. Major Western cities turn into what demographers are quietly calling female surplus zones. Places like New York, Los Angeles, London, Toronto, Sydney, and Austin already have 105 to 115 adult women for every 100 adult men in the 20 to 39 age bracket. That gap is widening by roughly 3 to 5% per year as men either leave the country entirely or move to smaller cities and rural areas where housing is cheap and drama is zero. The average rent in those big cities keeps climbing because the remaining high earning men are renting 400 square foot studios so they can stack cash and leave, while single women are forced to either roommate up well into their 30s or move back in with mom and dad. Zillow and Redfin data already show single women listing properties at a 40% higher rate than single men in every major metro. Translation: they're underwater and bailing out. Birth rates in the West dropped below 1.2 in several countries. Italy, Spain, and South Korea are already there. The United States hits 1.1 to 1.3, depending on whose numbers you use. Politicians start using the phrase demographic winter in public and then immediately backtrack because nobody wants to say why it's happening. Passport bro destinations explode. Medellin, Colombia reports a 400% increase in American men staying longer than 90 days since 2021. Thailand's digital nomad visa applications from Western men are up 600%. The average age of an American male expat in Southeast Asia is now 33, not 55 like it was a decade ago. These aren't retirees anymore. These are young, fit, financially independent guys who left before the music stopped. 2028 to 2032, the great sort. The sorting becomes geographical and brutal. Cities that still have, strong gay religious communities, military bases, or heavy industry, Think Salt Lake City, Colorado Springs, San Antonio, parts of Texas, Alberta, Poland, Hungary become the last pockets where Western men under 40 still get married and have children above replacement rate. Housing prices in those places skyrocket as women who missed the first wave try to relocate for work and quietly infiltrate the remaining functional dating markets. Everywhere else becomes a female majority zone where the ratio hits 120 to 130 women per 100 men in the prime marriage years. Dating apps in those cities turn into ghost towns for average women. The only men left swiping are either married and cheating, making under $40,000 a year, or openly advertising that they're looking for a modern arrangement where bills are split 50-50 and kids are optional. The phrase soft guy era gets replaced by gone guy era. Men stop even pretending to participate in mainstream Western dating culture. The default male life script becomes graduate, get remote skills, stack money for 5 to 8 years, hit 300,000 to 500,000 net worth, move to a low-cost country with traditional women, marry at 32 to 36, have 3 to 5 kids, live like a king on $50,000 a year, 2032 to 2035. The credit card cliff and the final narrative collapse. This is when the strong independent story dies in public, choking on its own lies. Millions of women who followed the boss babe script hit 38 to 45 with no savings, massive debt, frozen eggs that never worked, and rent they can no longer afford because the corporate jobs are gone and the side hustle economy collapsed. GoFundMe becomes the new retirement plan. Viral videos of 43-year-old former influencers living in their cars in Los Angeles start circulating. Nobody laughs anymore. Governments try everything. Tax credits for staying single and childless are quietly reversed. Politicians float UBI for single mothers without realizing there are no longer enough working men to pay for it. Some countries experiment with male reentry incentives, free housing if you marry a local woman over 35. The programs get zero takers. Men would rather stay in Bali with a 26-year-old who cooks than come back for a free apartment and a 40-year-old with a law degree and an attitude. The phrase, "Where have all the good men gone?" stops being asked because everyone finally knows the answer. They left, and they're not coming back. 2035 and beyond, two separate civilizations inside the West. One civilization, small towns, religious enclaves, and expat communities where men still marry, lead, protect, and provide. Birth rates 2.5 to 4.0. Families with 4, 5, 6 kids are normal. Women are 23 to 28 when they marry. Men are happy to pay for everything because the deal is fair and the culture still respects them. The other civilization, the big cities and the dying suburbs. Museums of feminism turned into ghost towns. Women outnumber men 3 to 1 in many neighborhoods. Cats outnumber children. The average age of a first-time mother who actually succeeds is 44 via donor sperm and paid surrogacy. Most just give up. The economy shrinks because there aren't enough young workers to replace the retiring boomers. Taxes skyrocket to pay for the elderly with no grandchildren to care for them. And in the middle of all of it, a 70-year-old woman in 2045 opens TikTok or whatever replaced it and watches a video of a 35-year-old American guy in Vietnam pushing a stroller with his smiling 29-year-old wife and their 4 kids running around a rice field. The caption just says, "Chose peace." She cries, closes the app, and realizes the peace was always a choice, just not hers to make anymore. That's the timeline. That's the future that's already locked in, unless something absolutely tectonic happens. And I'm going to tell you right now what that tectonic event would have to be. The only thing that could even slow this down is if Western women, as a group, en masse dropped the entitlement, dropped the attitudes, dropped the past, and started offering men a deal so good that staying or coming back actually makes sense. We're talking 22 to 28-year-olds en masse deciding no debt, no casual sex history to speak of, no social media clout chasing, submissive wife mindset, 3 to 6 kids, stay home and raise them well. Respect their husbands in public, look feminine, stay fit, cook like it's a love language, and treat masculinity like a gift instead of a threat. That's the only offer that competes with a pretty 24-year-old in Colombia who already does all of that and says yes, sir, with a smile. And the window for that offer is closing fast. Because every day another plane load of guys lands in Bogota, Bangkok, or Belgrade and realizes the West never actually had anything irreplaceable to begin with. The house is on fire. The men are outside drinking beer and watching it burn, and the people who lit the match are finally realizing the fire department changed its number a long time ago. So I'll leave you with this. What did you think about everything we just went through? Do you see it playing out the way I described? Do you agree, disagree, think I'm too harsh, not harsh enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Like the video, if it hit you in the chest the way it was supposed to. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Share this with every man you know who needs to hear that he's not crazy for walking away. And then just remember, all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. Cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.